Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to be reviewing how to plan an implant, how to place an implant, the kind of the workflow that I like to go through. This is going to be different for everybody, depending on how you've learned and what processes you're familiar with, but I'm just going to give you a general overview of how it works. So here we've got our particular scan of our patient here, and we are looking at one of the maxillary teeth here, which is the one that we're going to be replacing. So not necessarily replacing, but we're going to be planting our implant there. So I'm going to enable my crosshairs again so we can see. So the first step here and kind of point of view is obviously getting all of our views to look at that particular spot here. So the easiest way, in my opinion, to do this is to grab the center of the crosshairs. You can do this in any of the three views and drag it over to that particular spot. So you see, once I get there, okay, now I can see it. In this particular scan, I'll drag it up here. So now you can really see, you can scroll up and scroll down to really go through your slices there. So I'm going to use the center mouse wheel. I'm going to click the center mouse wheel in and then drag forward. Drag the mouse physically forward or drag the mouse backwards to actually zoom in and zoom out. So we're going to focus on this particular spot here. I'm going to do the same thing in these other views. As well as the 3D, because it's always good. It's always a good help to actually know where you are. So I'm going to snap this to the right. And kind of the very crosshair here is exactly where we're looking at here. So I'll give you a little bit of a sideways view. That's exactly where we are. Okay. So now we've got some pretty good range here. Generally we can see everything. There doesn't look like any obvious obstructions or anything like that. The pathology looks generally good. So our first concern and our main concern is to get some measurements, just to make sure we have the right tolerances here. So sometimes what I like to do is I actually like to get rid of the crosshairs, because sometimes they can crowd the screen a little bit, as well as kind of minimizing the main window to the right. Okay, so my main focus is I'm going to be looking right here and taking some measurements. So I'm going to go to my measurement tool here and my line. And a little disclaimer here, I am not a doctor, so these are kind of just rough measurements. I'm not exactly 100% sure what you as a doctor would do in the field, or if these are the correct measurements, but nevertheless, just kind of trying to show you the process here. Okay, so we've got a few distance markers here, around 8 millimeters in length and about 12 millimeters in width. So we'll probably end up choosing a wider and shorter implant here than in most other cases. So that looks good there. Let me just do a double check of my measurements here on the other views, and that will just make sure and kind of formulate and kind of verify that these numbers are accurate. Same thing over here. Perfect. Alright, so I'm going to turn these crossbar hairs on just so you can see. So I've made a bunch of these measurements here, and these measurements are important to me. So what I'm going to do to actually save these measurements is I'm going to click the Save Scene button. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to, in the future, go back to this exact very same spot with these measurements in play here. Okay. So now that I've got some measurements taken in here, we're going to start to focus on choosing the right implant for us. So we're going to go to the IMP section, and we're going to open our implant registry. Now there are currently I only have the BioHorizons ones installed. However, we do have multiple of other companies as well. If your company is not on our list, we can try to work with them specifically and try to integrate those here. So I'm going to want something with a shorter length. which looks like that's probably the shortest one I have here in the office. So my diameter is about 4.6, my total length is about 7, so I think that should work quite nicely. So here I'm going to hit add, and now you can see our implant is placed vertically. So just one thing to show you here, as you can see our measurements are still on the screen. As soon as I scroll here in any of the views, that measurement is going to go away, even if you scroll back to the same slice that you were on. So I'm just going to do that to get them out of my way. Alternatively, here you can see our implant is upside down, so we're going to use the red arrow, the red ball here, and just give it a rotation, and then place it at the start here of our bone structure. So I'm going to be using every single view here to make sure that it's placed accurately in the middle, and that my rotation is correct. If you ever move the implant kind of off grid and you can't see it with the other views, the easiest way to kind of get back to it is if you click on the physical implant up here and then hit the iLink button. This is going to reformulate all of the other views so that it focuses on the implant itself. But just to show you that, I'm going to go back here. Perfect. Alright, so as I'm going through here, sometimes it's a little bit hard to see everything super accurately in this view where you have to scroll through the slice every time. You really can't get a good judgment of where it's going to be, and that is aided by the CPR view up here at the top. So here I'm going to go to CPR, and I'm going to kind of zoom in on what I want to see, and I need to draw my CPR line, my curved planar reconstruction line. So I'm going to hold the mouse, hold the control button on the keyboard and left click the mouse along my arch. Now I really don't need to do that much, just considering because I'm still only concerned with this area, so I don't have to draw the whole arch. But this gives me a little bit of a safe zone here. So in addition to that, I'm going to change my grid to a 4x4 so I can look at more slices throughout the scan. In addition here, I'm going to change my filter to sharp 2, give myself a little bit of a sharper image, and then I'm going to zoom in. Okay, now that I can see here my particular views, I'm going to do a few things a little bit to clean up some of these views so I can actually see a little bit easier. So I'm actually going to turn off the cross line and turn off the CPR line just in general. So here you can see my pano. Again, I'm going to do a sharpness 2 filter here to make it a little bit more sharp. And I'm actually going to increase the thickness here of my slices. Increasing the thickness is going to give you more anatomy. So the less you see, the sharper, the smaller the thickness, the sharper the image, the more the thickness, the more anatomy you're going to see here. Okay, so you can kind of see here, going slice by slice now, how our implant looks in the anatomy. I'm going to turn on back my lines here, go a little bit farther back so we can see it in the middle. Good, so there's about, let's see, last tooth, I'd say that's the last end of the tooth there, 1, 2, 1 slice, 1, 2, 1 tooth. So it looks like we're pretty much in the middle here of both of our teeth. So I would consider this good. Again, here you always want to save that scene just to be sure. So that to me are two ways to kind of verify that you're in the accurate position for your implant. You verified with measurements that you're in the correct position. You're not going into any of the maxillofacial cavities. You're in the middle of the bone on each one. So as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to our remote support at imageworkscorporation.com/remote support. Thank you.